I now don't think I'll ever need any more bone meal ever again, but I need to figure out what I'm doing with all this bone meal. And that's why I'm going to be creating 10 micro complete AFK farms. The first thing we're going to build is going to be the automated cactus farm. This one is super easy and super great for so many different things. You can always use cactus for things such as defenses for your town, extra green dyes, and if you use it in a composter, you can actually use it to get quite a bit of extra bone meal. This is a super important step. You're going to want to do this so that way you can kind of limit how much loss you're going to have. Now what I'm doing here is actually placing the minecart, the hopper minecart on top of the hopper, so that way I can then take the sand and let it drop on top of it. This means that I can actually place down a cactus, and when the cactus grows, it will actually pop off when it touches these glass blocks. And instead of losing the cactus on top of itself, the hopper minecart will actually pick up the cactus before it can be destroyed. So for most of these tests, I am going to bump up the tick rate so you can actually see the results here. And if you want to guarantee that nothing gets lost, throw an extra block on top to prevent an extra block from being popped off top. Next up is the bamboo farm. This one's super awesome because you can actually use it to fuel your furnaces if you have enough of them, and actually create a lot of really good items coming up in the 1.20 update. So we're actually going to want to use mud here because mud has a slightly smaller hitbox than grass. So that means that we don't have to actually use a minecart like we do on the sand. And we'll place one bamboo here. Oh, my tick rate is up a little high. Next, we want to make sure that the observer is looking at the bamboo just above the piston. And then we're actually going to use one concrete here to utilize quasi-connectivity, which means that it's powering this block, but actually powers the piston underneath it. So to actually utilize that, we need a note block underneath it to then update the piston. So you'll notice, boom, now the piston is always going to activate when one bamboo gets just tall enough to be popped off. So we're going to want to actually encase this in glass, trapdoors, whatever you want to use. Place it up just high enough to actually contain all of the bamboo. And boom, we've already got bamboo coming in. Now there is a slight chance that the bamboo can fall on top of the bamboo stack here, and that may slightly reduce the efficiencies of the build, but this is completely AFK and utilizing the lowest amount of resources possible to make it very easy to get into. We're also gonna go up just one block taller. It looks like they're being popped off. Now, if you can get lucky and get the bamboo in the back corner like this, it's a lot less likely that the bamboo will get stuck on top of itself. So keep that in mind when you're building these bamboo farms. Next up is gonna be a very similar design, but with sugarcane this time. And because sugarcane is actually a non-solid block, all of the resources are gonna fall straight through and be very easy to catch. Now, we do need a water source next to this block, so I think we're going to utilize the new waterlogged roots coming from the mangrove forest. So this counts as though it's having a full water block next to it, even though it's a waterlogged block. So this works great. And then again, just like we built over there, we're going to build our block update checking piston. And boom, instant collection, no problems. And as we go through, I will be double checking to see exactly how profitable our, oh my goodness, these farms with the tick rate turned up just a little bit is working out great. Ooh, next up is going to be a great food resource and or another replacement for bamboo if you can actually spend the time combining these into kelp blocks. That's right, we're going to be working on kelp. Make sure you encase this one entirely because it is going to be waterlogged, so you're going to make a mess if you don't do this. We're actually going to need slightly further back, so that way we can actually run off the water and have it dump into the hopper. All right, this is the finished kelp farm. Go ahead and hook this up to a furnace to actually get it cooking if you want to. But it's probably easier just to have this fill up and then throw it into your furnaces since those are not completely automatic. Unless you hook it up to the bamboo farm over here, then you can have an infinite source of dried kelp if you hook it up into a smoker. Next up is going to be the foxberry farm. Now, unfortunately, we cannot utilize mud in this farm because foxes don't quite understand how to use berries if they are slightly under it by a block. So we're going to have to use grass this time, and that means that we are going to have to utilize rails. So this one does not need to be shoved into the block like the cactus. We're not trying to catch the items up above it, just barely. We're actually totally fine with them hitting the floor. Now, something to note, most of these farms are tileable, so you can take them and then place them almost directly next to each other to extend their work and reach. So for example, if you were going to do this and extend the berry farm, you would actually want to set up the hopper minecarts to be moving back and forth underneath this block. But since we're only doing one block wide tileable, this is totally fine to leave it completely stationary. And we do want to leave it on the rail so it can reach through the block. If you take this one off the rail, it'll be basically just a normal hopper. Now we fill this in and then get one fox in. Now, if you're in survival mode, this will be much more difficult using a lead to get into the one place. But what happens here is the fox picks up the berry, and it only picks up one berry at a time. So usually the berries give you more than one, and then you end up with the excess down here. And like I said, tile this out further if you want to, and then just have the minecart go back and forth picking up the excess berries. But if you only have one fox and the berries are keeping up, then it kind of makes sense to have just a couple of berries and a couple of foxes. We are already halfway through the 10 complete AFK micro farms that you can build to just run in your world. So I have a question for you. Have you liked the video yet? Because if you like the video and get subscribed, then once we hit 5,000 subscribers, I'm going to make a Minecraft server. I think it'll be a great way to say thank you to all of you and all of your support, and we'll get more details as the days go. So make sure you're subscribed and liking the videos. Helps me out a ton. Thank you. All right, as always, start with your hopper chest so that way you can get all of the items collected. I'm just going to build it up like such. If you want to contain your water, use the new roots. And make sure to encase your hoppers, that way when the melons fly off, you can actually pick them up. And this is a great system because you can tile it to the side and up. And for the pumpkin design, it's literally the exact same thing. So if you want to keep this in an even smaller area, just put it to the left. Build it off of there and just add these blocks here so that way you can get all of the resources. This is probably going to be great for your villager trading farms if you want to build them. And you still only need one water block as long as they are close enough in range to touch. All right, I totally forgot that mud was a thing, so let's redesign this to actually use mud. Also, something I completely forgot about, you don't need to use waterlogged roots. You can actually use leaves too, so you don't need to head all the way to a mangrove swamp if you can't get there. We're going to update the placement here behind the mud blocks, that way we can tile it just a little bit easier. And if you're worried about losing drops on top of the farmland, go ahead and place a hopper underneath the farmland as well. Farmland, just like mud, has a much lower hitbox than dirt and grass, so that way the hoppers can actually pick up the resources. That worked way quicker than I thought it would. Yeah, I'm definitely rebuilding something a little bit more like this in my worlds. This design is great because you can expand it to the sides and upwards, but if you want something that's just a whole flat surface and a little bit more condensed, go for this build. And of course, just in case with your block of choice. And this one can go all the way to the sides, just it can't really go up. Pick your melon or pumpkin farm of choice for whatever fits your need. Next up is going to be the bee nest. Once again, tileable, so go ahead and build this one-to-one, side-to-side, do what you want. Place a hopper like so, mud block on top, a couple of concrete blocks, and glass if you want to actually see the bees doing their work. You will want to place a couple of blocks where the hive is going to go to the side, so that way they won't be able to escape very easily. And this wall here is very important, so that way you can then look inside of here, place the flower and the bees without them escaping. So you want one comparator facing outside of the block where you're going to be placing the hive, then one dispenser facing down into the hive. This is where you're going to place your shears and or bottles, depending on what you want to use. 2 repeaters facing towards that. The glass block here is very important because then you can actually run the redstone line straight up through the block and then into the redstone repeaters. And you need the 2 repeaters here so that we can actually reach the distance once the hive has reached its maximum honey capacity. Or you can do it this way with no repeaters. Make sure that you face the hive towards you, so that way they have an exit near where the flower is going to go. You can use any flower you want. I'm just going to use the cornflower as an example. Now you want to make sure that you've either silk touched a hive that already has at least 2 bees, or breed up a couple of bees yourself and bring them to the hive. You just need to make sure that they are already inside of the hive once you move it here. Use Silk Touch to pick it up and they stay inside of the hive. Like I said, you can build this literally side by side several times over and just run hoppers underneath it to then run the resources from the hive to the chest. Go ahead and fill up your dropper with either shears or glass bottles depending on what you actually want them to pick up. Now, you can change the frequency that you get some of these. For example, if I do 3 shears and 1 stack of bottles, I'm going to get 3 times the amount of honeycomb to honey bottle. Again, it is very crucial that when you place the hive, you place it with everything built up around it so that the bees have no way of escaping. That's why you have to use the wall instead of a fence or anything smaller than that that could possibly let them get out. Next up is the micro mushroom farm. Go ahead and place your podzol in an X similar to this, and then we'll actually place our mushrooms like this. Now, the great thing about podzol is that it actually lets us place mushrooms in very bright settings. Usually, you can't actually place any mushrooms down without podzol. Now, after a little bit of fiddling, you're actually going to want to put the observer on this angle facing towards the mushroom, a block here, redstone dust, block, repeater on at least 2 delay, and a sticky piston facing towards the block. You need the repeater with 2 delays so that way it can actually pull the block back, because otherwise it'll be on a single tick and it'll just push the block all the way out. Now, you don't need all 4 of these mushrooms. You could literally do it with just 1, but 4 of them give you a better chance of actually spreading. You'll likely want a hopper minecart under here to actually pick these up. There's a pretty high chance that the mushrooms get stuck on the block, so placing a hopper minecart underneath here on a rail, on the hopper, into the chest, will actually make it so that way it picks up all of the mushrooms. Our final AFK micro farm is going to be actually flowers. Now, this is going to use bone meal, but that's because I'm going to actually utilize some of the previous micro farms that we had to create an automatic bone meal farm. So it's like a 2-for-1. We're going to go ahead and build the dispenser up here with the hoppers facing into it and do what we did with the cactus farm. And the reason that we are choosing the cactus farm this time around is because cactus has a 50% chance to be composted. You are going to want to make sure that the hopper is facing down into the composter, otherwise the cactus cannot be converted into actual bone meal. And don't forget to break your track so that you can actually place the sand to fall. If you don't break the track, the sand will break. And now that we have our automatic bone meal farm, go ahead and place the dispenser under here, run the hopper into it, and then just simply pick any 2 tall flower that you want. We're actually going to be utilizing our mud trick from earlier, since this is a non-solid block that will let the items actually fall down. And I'm actually going to take these observers and create an observer clock. Now, this is going to be running non-stop all the time, but it will only work when you actually have bone meal. And if you actually want to speed up any of these other passive AFK farms, you can actually take this little system here and plug it into a few things like bamboo, kelp. Any of those things could benefit greatly from having an automatic bone meal farm such as this, and it takes mere minutes to get set up, and all of our farms are actually coming through quite handy and doing the work that they need to. All right, if you found that useful and built any of these farms, please drop a like, subscribe to the video, and stick around so that we can find out if I'm ever going to make that Minecraft server. We need 5,000 subs, and that seems so far away. Thank you for sticking around to this point in the video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and drop some comments down below of which farms you actually think you'll be using in your survival worlds. I hope to see all of you creatures in the next one. Bye bye. I'd love to give a shout out to all of our members. I'm Afrailian, Cosmic Joker, Pasta Luke, Eric Tandler, Lady 9F1. Thank you everyone for joining the channel. Your support is immensely appreciated and helps me come that much closer to becoming a full-time YouTuber, so thank you.